Poor girl texted the CEO by mistake. Hours later, the hospital called him about a baby in her name. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Michael Thorne, the 38-year-old CEO of a booming tech company in New York, glanced at his phone during a board meeting. A message had popped up from an unknown number. "I don't know if this will reach you, but I'm scared. I'm alone. I don't know what to do. Please, if anyone's reading this, I need help." The room buzzed with corporate chatter, but Michael's focus narrowed to those trembling words. It wasn't meant for him, clearly a wrong number, but something about the desperation in that message tugged at him harder than any financial forecast ever could. Michael excused himself and stepped into the hallway, texting back. "Hi, I think you may have the wrong number. But are you okay?" There was no response. He waited. Still nothing. The minutes dragged like hours. With a heaviness in his chest he couldn't explain, he saved the number in his phone and tried calling. No answer. A few hours later, as Michael prepared to head home, his phone rang again, this time, from a hospital. "Mr. Thorne," a nurse asked hesitantly. "You were listed as the emergency contact for a young woman named Sarah Lane. She was brought in a few hours ago in labor, alone. She collapsed outside the ER. We found your number on her phone, marked as, 'Michael, please help.'" Michael froze. He didn't know Sarah. He had never met her. But now, his name was the one they called when she needed someone most. Without thinking twice, Michael raced to the hospital. The city blurs by when your heart is racing and your mind is filled with questions. Who was this girl? Why had she texted him? How had his number ended up as her only lifeline? When he arrived, a nurse led him to the maternity ward. "She's stable now," she said, "but it's a miracle she and the baby survived. She was severely dehydrated, had walked miles to get here. It seems she's been living in her car for the past few weeks." Michael's chest tightened. Then he saw her. She looked so young, no more than 20. Fragile beneath the thin hospital blanket, her skin pale, her brown hair matted to her forehead. In her arms was a tiny baby girl, swaddled and sleeping, her chest rising and falling with delicate rhythm. As Michael approached, Sarah stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, panic flickered across her face, until she saw him. "You came," she whispered. "I didn't know who else to call. I meant to text the community helpline, but I messed up the number." She looked down, ashamed. "I'm so sorry." He knelt beside her. "Don't apologize. I'm glad you reached me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't have anyone. My mom died 2 years ago. The father left when he found out I was pregnant. I lost my job after I started showing. I didn't think I'd make it." Michael was quiet for a moment, his heart aching. He had everything, money, power, luxury, and yet, sitting beside this girl and her newborn, he felt smaller than he ever had. "You're not alone anymore," he said, and meant it. Over the next few days, Michael returned to the hospital again and again. He brought clothes for the baby, food for Sarah, and listened to her story. She had been a nursing student with dreams of helping others, until life derailed those plans. But her spirit remained unbroken. "I named her Hope," Sarah said one evening, looking down at her daughter. "Because that's what I felt the moment you walked in." Michael was moved in a way he hadn't been in years. He thought of his own mother, a single parent who had worked double shifts just to keep him fed. He thought of how close he'd come to forgetting the value of connection, of showing up. Then he did something that surprised even himself. He offered Sarah a place to stay, temporarily. "Until you're on your feet," he said. "I know it's a lot, but I have space. And maybe, you could help me with some charity work. We're starting an outreach program for young women in crisis. Someone like you, who's lived it, could make a difference." Sarah's hands trembled as she accepted. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice cracking. He smiled softly. Because someone once helped me when I had no one. I promised myself I'd pay it forward. Maybe this is how. Months passed. Sarah moved into a guest house on Michael's property. She helped him build the Hope Initiative, a nonprofit aimed at supporting single mothers with housing, education, and career training. Her input was invaluable. Her story inspired others. She went back to school, part-time, with Michael funding her tuition anonymously. She never asked for more than she was given. She only gave more in return. Hope grew into a bright-eyed toddler, often found toddling around the office where her mother now worked as the director of outreach. And every year, on that rainy Tuesday in March, Michael would remember the text that changed everything. One evening, as they closed down the office, Sarah turned to him. "I used to think I was cursed," she said quietly. "But now I think maybe I was just being led somewhere better. You were the answer I never knew I needed." Michael looked at her in hope and felt a fullness in his heart that no quarterly report had ever brought. "Sometimes," he said, "the wrong number is exactly the right call." The story of a poor girl who accidentally texted a CEO, and the baby who brought them together, became more than just an odd twist of fate, it became a reminder. That compassion doesn't need an invitation. That even in the middle of our busy lives, we can still stop, listen, and make space for someone else's story. And that one act of kindness can echo into a lifetime of change.